beautifully broken. You beautifully broken me. Yeah, da 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 da. Beautifully broken me. Yeah, you beautifully broken me. Yeah, da 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 da. Beautifully broken me. Yeah, yeah.
Hello. It's your girl, Noble IJ. I just want to welcome you again. I want to welcome you to this incredible conversation. Like, honestly, this conversation is definitely going to be bomb. It's going to be bomb because it's an amazing conversation. And guess what, guys? Guess what? This conversation is really like going to be very interesting. I have an amazing guest who would be, sharing his amazing story. And what are we really going to be talking about today? We're talking about what happens when fathers are absent. What happens when fathers are absent. And this is really going to be a very touching story. And I want you guys to please sit tight. Yes, sit tight and really enjoy every bit of this conversation because it is going down. And I just want to really kind of like bring myself out there. So let's say you just joined in, you haven't really known this person speaking, you don't really know me. I just really want to announce who I am, right? So my name is Noble IJ. I am the host of the Beautifully Broken Me podcast, and really more like sharing stories and inspiring people with my life story, with other people's stories, and just really letting you know that, listen, you could be broken, or you could seem that it might seem that you're broken, but you're not really broken, because broken crayons still color. Okay, there's that beauty inside of you that needs to come out, and we need to share our stories because it brings comfort, it brings healing. It kind of like inspires a lot of people to be more, do more, and have more. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking right now. And as I bring on my amazing guest, and this my guest actually, he would really, I really want you guys to enjoy this conversation because he's gonna be really talking about some very amazing thing. He has really experienced a lot of things. And who is this guest? He is a community activist. He's actually a professional barber. He's a father. He's a granddad. He has been doing an amazing thing in his community, and he's featured in so many podcasts, like incredible, uncountable podcasts. And I'm going to be bringing him on shortly. So, I just really want you guys to join me as I bring on my guests, and his name is Jor-El. Welcome. I just want to welcome you to the Beautifully Broken Me podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. You are welcome. And honestly, like, we have this very amazing conversation that is really thrilling, and I'm very excited about it. And we're really talking about what happens when fathers are absent. Before we
Mm,
get right into the conversation, the audience will want to meet with you, and I just really want you to kind of tell us a little bit about you. Don't go into the deep parts, just tell us a little
right,
bit about you.
right. Basic things. Well, I'm a barber, a master barber of 9 years. Got my license, incarcerated, did a decade and a half. Been out 10 years in a couple weeks. Father of six between the ages of 30 and 24. Then I have an 8 year old who I've had custody for since she was two. Killer activists, been into that part in 2020 when they had the George Floyd thing going on. I'm, a, I'm here for the youth. I deal with a lot of youth, and focus on the youth and the young.
Absolutely. Like, you're doing really amazing, incredible things, and we're just really gonna get to it. We're gonna get to that deep part of it. But I just want to know, like, this topic. What happens when fathers are absent? Because honestly, like, a lot of single parents and a lot of single moms, a lot of people who be like, I just want to be a single mom. I really enjoy being a single mom. But again, that aspect of, having a father figure and all of those things. And I just really want us to, talk to us about like this particular topic. How does this really resonate to you, if it does?
It really resonates in me because like I always say, we can only speak on our experience and others' experience that we've experienced. Someone might have told us something and whatever the case may be, and we got gems out of it and we shared it. Us personally, we go through our own situations, and my situation was very similar to the top of today's topic. It's We can go all the way back to when we were brought over here, how
Mhm.
important it is to have a father in the family household, and because
Mhm.
it's balance. It's really balance, and when that balance is taken out, then there's a lot of unbalance because the woman has to pick up the slack. And yeah, it hits hard with me. So this is going to be a very interesting podcast because I can relate on a lot of things that we're about to talk about.
Wow. And again, you just kind of mentioned it, and it started kind of like trickling down to me, like, during those days, men are sent to war, right? And then the women are like the ones who are like catering for their kids, and all of those psychological effects because the man isn't there and all of those things. And how about like the man could be there, right? But he's not emotionally available. And I just want you to touch on that aspect before we go into the deeper part.
I went through that. I found out that for the first 12 years of my life, that this man wasn't my father, and that affected me in so many ways psychologically. But what I always say, just because you got a male in the house, don't mean you got a man in the house. Just
Mm,
because you got a father in the house, because any man that has a child is a father, right? Just because you got a father in the house doesn't mean you got a dad in the house. Now, to me, a dad invests as much time possible into that child. I always look at it as a bank. A child is a bank. You gotta put and deposits are positive. That's a positive thing. You gotta put deposits in the child. Therefore, when you take a withdrawal, it ain't gonna hurt. But if you keep withdrawing from this child, this account, you're gonna be in a negative, right? So, I learned how to be the father that I am by, because learning from what not to do, because I've learned that in life, that you can learn a lot from somebody. You can learn what not to do from others. So with that being said, I be engaged into my child's life. I'm doing homework. I'm sitting down talking to them, explaining how the world works, giving them the money. And this is at a young age. I'm molding her. I'm understanding that I have to mold this child because kids are clay. But if a father isn't molding their child, he's just a father. He's not a dad.
wow. And I just want to touch on the part of molding. So when you mean molding, I don't know, I'm a little spiritual. I don't want to call myself religious, but
Right.
like the Bible will always say that with clay, in the hands of the potter and stuff like that. So
Right.
what aspect of molding do you really kind of are you referring
The
to?
same thing. Like, okay, kids coming when a child comes to this earth, it is the parents' responsibility, or not just the parents, but the village, because we might be related. You might be my sister, and I got a kid that's your nephew or your niece, so you're a part of this too, right? So with that being said, we're supposed to we install things in them. We mold them to tell the truth, not to lie, not to steal. To say thank you, to apologize. Things like that. Give them things. That's molding the child. So if you
Mm,
don't mold a child, the world is going to mold them.
mm,
If the child didn't get molded at home, a lot of these children go out, especially young men, they go out in the streets, and the streets are mold them. The
mm,
gangs are mold them and all that. So we're as humans, not just children, humans too. Me and you can be in a relationship, and I can be in the streets, and then you like, trying to, you see the potential, and you trying to mold me into, out of that into what you need as your partner or your significant others. So I can either go with it or I can just listen. I had a girl who was like, don't sell weed, because I came home selling weed. She's like, don't sell weed, you know, go to work, and she molded me out. She got me out of that mind frame and changed the way I was thinking until doing that. What, you're right. I'm not from there. I never sold, I just went to work. So that's what I mean by molding. We all humans, just a period, young or old, we can be molded. It's all in our mind. Our mind's molded.
And then let's really talk about like the aspect of nurturing. So like I started with, single moms. Moms are very nurturing. Women are naturally kind of like, we have that we have that thing in us, it's in it in us to be very nurturing, to be
Mhm.
like that super caring, super nurturing. You see a woman who lives her personal life, whatever struggle she has, but very nurturing to like the child and all of those things. But again, we don't really like see that nurturing aspect in the man, because the man has his own, right? So the
Right.
man is basically structure, the man is basically discipline. And I think this is one of the challenges that happens when the father is absent, because then that discipline isn't really there. And I just really want you to really kind of like touch on, as a woman, I might not be able to know how to raise a boy child. And maybe I don't know, and a man might not be able to know how to raise a girl child. So and that's why it's very important to have like those two parties involved. But we know that certain things might happen that would make the man not to be involved in their child's life and all of those things. Do you have any personal story that you want to share that would really bring this to life?
Man. Yeah. So, I understand, me personally, I understand now because my father, I asked him, like I said, I didn't meet him till I was 12, 13. As I got older, we had a man to man talk. And I asked him, why didn't you try? Why weren't you there? And he was like, just dealing with my mother and her husband, how my father is designed, he couldn't, because when you got a passive aggressive. You got aggressive people, passive aggressive, and passive people.
Hmm.
My father was he was passive, and my mother and my stepfather were really aggressive. So they two against one, he couldn't deal with it. So basically, he was like, I said I was going to wait till you get of age, and then what I'm saying, but I just couldn't, and I understand that. I got to a point with that with my mother. It goes both sides. Not my mother, but my daughter's mother, who I had. It was just issues. It was so many issues that I got to the point where I was like, I can't do this. Here, you take her. Since you don't want to co-parent with me, you take her because I can't. I want to protect my peace, and I'm tired for 10 years since this child been here 8 years going back and forth of just calling the cops on me for me showing up with my paperwork saying that I got to get my daughter because the court ordered and just lying, getting me in fights and situations and having the cops out. You take it. So I understand why a lot of men will walk away for their child and wait for their child to get older or wait for the mother to figure it out that I'm an asset and teamwork make a dream work. I'm here to help you with this child. Then I'm a setback and, love my child from afar. So I understand why a lot of, that would be a reason because the mothers could, I don't know why, but, they just be in their feelings of, and therefore that interferes with raising a child. So I understand that now because I went through that. I'm going through that.
Absolutely. And it just really kind of like trickles down to, getting, getting to that point where some things might happen that will make it really, that will really kind of like make the dad not to be involved in the child's life. Like I said, life challenges, situations, whatever it is could, make it. But we just know that there are impacts, that could come, when a father is not involved in a child's life. And looking at my personal story, I could just say that honestly, it's, if my dad wasn't there, things, a lot of things would have gone wrong. A lot of things would have gone wrong because, growing up, we could get to a point. Yes, my mom was she was very disciplinarian. She wasn't going to take no for an answer. But again, we just knew that, as we're growing up, we'll get to the point where we felt like we're not going to be listening to her anymore. Like, she's old school, she, whatever it is. But again, we have this, our dad. Whenever he comes home, everybody sits up. Whenever he
Yeah.
comes home, we just know that, oh my God, dad is around or whatever it is. And one thing about him is he knows where to strike that balance. He knows when to be a dad and when to be a friend. He knows when it's like, oh yeah, dad, he wears his dad hat or whatever it is, and we know that, okay, yeah, this is, and we he knows when to bring us together, and just he plays with us and all of those kind of things. So we really kind of like saw that mom and dad child raising, coming together as a team and raising, the child. And don't get me wrong too, we've gotten, instances where it's just more like a single mom raising kids and the kids turns out well, right? We've seen instances when it's like maybe the dad just single-handedly raised the child and the child turns out very well. But most of the things that we see sometimes, I had somebody in my podcast who really shared about, how their prison journey, and how their mom had to raise them, and she had to work, more than 40 hours a week, double shift, just to make sure that, there's food on the table for them. And because of that, they were really kind of like influenced. And and those kind of stories, you hear a lot of stories a lot. So I just really want you at this point to, kind of like share your story. Your dad wasn't involved in your life, he wasn't fully your biological dad, and then your stepdad, and all of those things that trickles down. And really, how did this really impact you, and how
Right.
does this really affect you in your journey? And if you can share your story, and my listeners will be willing to kind of hear it.
Right. So I realized how important it was. It ain't just okay. You can imagine what a father is supposed to have. As far as his title, his job, as responsibility to his child, and taking him under his wing. I didn't get that, and once I got that in prison, because it wasn't, they were like father figures. And that's what they call OG. They call them street names OGs, the ones who got wisdom and know how to play the role. They're supposed to take us up under their wings and show us things. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to have kids, but you got nieces, you got nephews, you got, what I'm saying, younger people that are up under you that you would consider being their elder, right? So it takes a village. So once I got that I didn't have from my stepfather and my real father, that started changing the game. So I could just imagine that if what I would be if I had that structure,
Mm,
that man, that boy talk, that
mhm,
treat me like a human being, not talking crazy to me,
mhm,
not incenting that, giving me feels or saying things that make me feel like I'm not wanted. If I got that, I know I would have been in a much better place. It's
mm,
so vital that a father, or just, we just talking about father, we ain't talking about outsiders, but it's so important now, father, because the father's love for the child is you can't compare it to no others. I know there's some similar, like this ain't my child, but I love him as if it's mine. I get that, but for me, I've been in a situation where he's not my father, but my brother, that's my brother's dad. And I've seen a difference of the type of
mm,
love. And I recall remember coming down the steps, and they're, watching football films, because he was a big football fan. So of course, his son was going to be a football player, and them in the backyard just going through, spending father son time. And, I'm just sitting on the sideline watching, and it didn't bother me at the time, but it psychologically did something to me that I
mhm,
suppressed. Like, but I know that what I went through, I didn't want my daughter to go through. So
mm,
I treated my daughter how I want to be treated, talk to her, and explain things to her, question her, why you do that? Because normally what I was used to is if I do something, they jumped on me, negative, not try to ask and get some type of understanding. So, I feel like if a dad has that in him and plays that title role to the best of his ability, that child would definitely benefit. Definitely. Even if the child is unruly, but it's like I call it annihilator. Hear me now, but feel me later. Because a lot of things when we're young, we don't be feeling until we get older. So it was very important for me to have father figures, people that I respect, a male figure. We don't say father figure, but a male figure that I respect and I listen to, because
mhm.
they were giving me things to listen to. If I had that in my father, yeah, I know I would have been off a lot better.
Yeah, I heard you say a lot of things like, father figure, and I heard you say something like man. So I just really want you to, tell me the difference. Some people will just be like, I'm a man, or, and not everybody's, not all men are fathers, and not all fathers are men, just like kind of like women too, right? Not all women are, mothers, even though, and not all mothers are women, something like that. I hope I'm not confusing
So,
anybody, but I just
so
really want to like put it in perspective.
when I say what was it? Father, no, fathers and the difference between fathers and man. You
Mhm.
know, like I said, some of any man that has a father has a child is automatically a father. I mean, is
Mhm.
automatically a dad.
Mhm.
Any woman that has any male, female, any female that has no any mother that has a child, any female that has a child is automatically a mother. That don't mean that they're a mom. So, what was the other one I said you wanted me to touch on?
The father part and the man part.
The father what?
Like when
Oh,
people
father
say,
figure, father
yes,
figure.
father figure, yes.
So, for example, I've been in different relationships, and majority of not yeah, majority all the relationships I've been in, there's kids, and me and them kids have end up having a certain type of relationship that they don't have because I treat them like me being going through what I went through. If I always said if I get with a woman who has kids, I'm gonna treat those kids like they're mine.
Hmm.
And by doing that, I have these relationships with these kids to this day, where all of them don't have a father in their lives. I don't know why it's like that, but it's just designed like that. They don't have a father in their lives. So when I come in their lives, I'm like that father figure. I'm not their father, but I'm giving them father advice, and they're looking at me as, you know what I'm saying? They look at me more as a father than their own father because they'll come to me before, even if they can pick their phone up and call their dad or whatever, they'll still choose me because what we've been through compared to also with those who don't even have a dad's number, they could still, that's what a father figure is. I'm not a father, I'm not their father, but I'm that figure that they look at me as, you get what I'm saying now?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really kind of like, it kind of makes a lot of sense, and looking at it from the point you're looking at it from, father figure. So it gives you that aspect of like a mentor when you have
Exactly.
somebody who is, accountable to you, they're looking up to you, they're coming to you for counsel, they're coming to you for advice, and they're in that place where they're like, I can't do this because this person holds me in high esteem. My mom loves me, my dad loves me, they are very involved in my life, and sometimes even when a dad is absent from a child's life, possibly due to divorce, it's
Mhm.
always for that man or for that father to be like, very involved, very involved in that child's life. They might not be together like as a family, but that involvement really kind of makes the child to feel like, oh, my dad loves me, that kind of a thing. But I just really want to get, right into like your story, basically, because you had this dysfunctional upbringing, and that really kind of like trickles to the point where, you saw yourself in doing things that all of those stories. I don't want to talk about it. I just really want you to kind of like share those stories with us.
Yeah, so, like I said, around the age of 12, somewhere around that time in life, I found out what it was, and it did something to me. I didn't know how to deal with it. Like it was just bam, dropped in my lap, and I had to deal with it at a young age, and I didn't do it well. And then my relationship with my stepfather, it was already, I ain't gonna say it was shaky, but now that I'm older and I see what was going on, it was a stepfather stepson relationship. It really was, and I ain't gonna get into the depths of it, but I understand what it is, and I just by dealing with him and learning him and how he think, I get it. But when I found my father, when I got with my father, I ended up, getting kicked out of my mother's house and moved in with him. And the way it's just, he wasn't really, he would tell me things. We'd have little talks, and he would stress about money and how to hustle out here. And he did the best that, let's just say he did the best that he could. It
Mhm.
still was not. It was that emotional absence that you
Mhm.
spoke about that I had lacked, and that's what I need because at the time in order to have a person that's young, they have to learn how to control their emotions. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're going through something emotional like this, it can go either way. It can get good or it can get real bad.
Mm-hmm.
And when if you have that emotional substance in your life, in a male figure or a father figure or a father or dad, whatever the case may be, then they're supposed to be the ones to navigate you through. Like you said, mothers are nurturers of children until a certain time, and then that's when the fathers kick in, because the fathers can't do the nurturing. We can, because I'm doing it. I've done it, and I'm not the only father that's done it, but it's more suited for women. That's why there's more women out here doing the daggone thing as a single parent than a father doing the daggone thing as a single parent. There's no comparison. There's really no comparison. But if I had that, I believe that I would have been able to negotiate through it, because my daughter was going through that. A child becomes a product of their environment. And if the environment is negative, full of arguing and, fights with significant others, with partners, and just negative, then that child, as growing up, because they're clay, they'll start being molded in a negative light. So that was the situation with my daughter from birth to 2 years old, 2.5 years old, until I got her, and I saw that, because I'm dealing with I'm seeing it, I'm a part of it. So when I got her, I gave her that. I had that emotional stability within myself to make sure that she was going to be emotionally okay by talking to her and just creating a positive environment. So yeah, that's what I would say on that.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically showing that you are, present in your daughter's life. You're just there. You're a present father. You're that father who is, fully present, fully there with, just kind of like helping and raising the child, even though like you and your partner were not, closely together in one roof, but again, it just really showed, you're very, very active and involved. And can we really kind of like talk about a lot of kids who are in prison, in jail, and all of those things, because you see that when you ask one person, the second person and the third person will be like, I wish my dad was fully involved in my life. I wish I had a dad. I wish I had whatever. And I've had some people who shared and said, I see other kids, because maybe they lived in a suburb. It was kind of like an environment where, I'm like, so the kids who had fathers who were fully involved in their life, like how did their life turn out to be, and all of those kind of things. And I just want to ask you that question so that you can retell me, like, because you've been to that place, you've been to prison, you've been to jail, you've had those experiences, and just really tell me, how does this really impact kids, especially those who find themselves in that other place.
You have no sense of guidance. That's where that comes from. Because the father is supposed to give you some idea, help you with your sense of guidance, push you in that direction. And when he's not there, then you go astray. Especially when you've been with the mother and you need that father. When the time comes, a child needs their father, just as a daughter needs her mother, a son needs his father
Hmm.
for that structure and that guidance and whatnot. And when you don't have that, you go off doing the wrong things, and it'll send you there. And then things can either get better, as they did for me, but they'll start off worse, or they can stay real bad. But it's just when a child, if a child don't have structure, that's what it's really all about, because the street's going to mold you. And that's where a lot of our people, our young men, goes to when they don't have it. They're done listening to mom. The mom can't even keep a boyfriend, let alone control with her. She's all, but what makes you think that she could control her child, or mold? Because women can mold a boy into a man by giving them ideals and just planting seeds. You got to plant seeds, like uh, uh, open the door for a woman. That sticks with her. That you plant that seed, men aren't supposed to let women pump gas. It sees that, what I'm saying, men, I don't like it when women say a woman can't raise a boy into a man. You can. Look at, there's so many that's been successful. You've met some that, were raised by women, and they're very good men, because their mothers have an understanding of what a man is supposed to be and what she wants her son to be like. So she plants seeds. Not all the seeds are going to grow, but majority of the seeds will grow, and that's what we, saying, that's good enough. So if a man ain't in the man in his son's life and he's not planting them seeds are going to get planted in the streets. Them streets are going to plant, and then they're going to grow. And it's just, I could just be by my experience of what I went through, and that's the path. That's how I got to where I was, because I know once I got with some people some men that actually cared about me, my life started changing. I started seeing my worth. I started asking myself, why am I acting this way, trying to figure things out. But before I had that, I was like any other kid, just basically lost, no sense of direction, and just going with the flow, and the flow is negative.
Mm. Wow, wow, wow. And I really kind of like felt it in my bones, when you said that, when the child doesn't have direction and structure. And we just kept saying in this conversation that, the moms usually would often give you that nurturing, that caring and that, whatever. But the man is the one who's influenced, just his presence alone. And honestly, any man who is really raising a child and it's really not, you know putting in that structure and just making yourself, you're not going to make your child to be like scared of you and just be like a
Yeah.
demigod, but at least you just really want to have that structure, you want to have that discipline in your child's life, and just have them, have that reverence for you, so that whenever you're there, they know that, what, my dad is here. Do you get, and that's just the thing. And I really like what you said when you said that, when fathers are absent, when fathers are not there, when the structure is not there, when the discipline is not there, the society will mold that child. The peer pressures, we're going to get to peer pressures, the society, the street is really going to mold that child, and whatever they tell that child is what the child is going to take, because there's no
Yeah.
one to come back to say, okay,
Right.
I want to double check this with you. And because they don't have that relationship with their father, so it would. And again too, we talked about some moms who are really, who can't even keep a boyfriend, like you said, right? And then it's difficult raising a boy child, in that sense, or men, women who are really not very disciplined, personal discipline, they don't have boundaries, and their child is growing up as a teenager and they're seeing all of these things. So
Seeing all that men coming in and out, different man every 6 months. You got a different man, and chasing love, and yeah, they see that.
and then when they see that, it's difficult to correct them, it's difficult to give them counsel, because they're going to be like,
The
come on.
respect, because the respect, you, in order for that to work, in order for you to reach another human being, that human being has to respect you. If
Mm,
there's no respect, or there's little respect, there's the amount of respect that a human being has for another is the more they'll be able to, listen to them, and take their words and their knowledge under consideration or as advice.
absolutely, absolutely. And then let's really talk about, like, the life in the prison cell, because yes, the parents were not there to mold this child, or the dad wasn't there to mold this child, and now they're in a structured place where they have to do this and do that, or do a certain thing so that they can get their life together. If not, you're not coming out, or all of those kind of things. So just kind of walk us through, like, what happens in that place. um yeah.
For me, I grew up in structure. Middle class home, nice neighborhood, 90%, I would say 95%, maybe 80, maybe 79, I would say 97% black neighborhood. So there was structure back in there. But when I found out the structure end, and that's where I started getting lost. So when I went to prison, there was a lot of structure, and it took me, like I did, I was sitting for 14 years. 7 of them was hard, because I would get kicked out of institutions because, I couldn't follow, they call it uh, failure to adjust. I couldn't adjust to the structure of prison because, you know, when you're between zero birth to 12, you're in the instruction of your mother's, your parents' house.
Mhm.
So then when you become a teenager, that's when the man comes in. When you come of age, that's when a man comes in, and it's his job to mold you as far as how a man's supposed to conduct themselves. But if that job ain't being done or wasn't done correctly, that child is gonna have that man, that young man, that boy child, that boy man, because he's a teenager going into a man, but he's still a boy, is going to have problems when he gets into a structured environment. And that's what happened to me.
Hmm.
It took me 7 years to, you know what I'm saying, learn how to adjust to this new structure and how to deal with my feelings as a man, because all I knew was to fight. Didn't nobody tell me about talking things out, and there's a way of doing things. Like I tell my daughter, there's a way to do things. You talk it out, and fighting should be the last resort. I didn't have that mentality going into that, so it took me time to change my mindset. And once I start changing my mindset, everything starts flowing into place. But it's again, it all starts it starts with structure, and the father sets the structure for the boy, for his son, and then he builds off of that.
Absolutely. Wow. And I just kind of like feel that because, everything comes across to you for a fight, because you just have to, possibly all your life has just been, fighting your way through because you want to be heard, you want someone to listen to you, you just want to have somebody give you that attention that, you didn't get from your biological dad. So everything comes across, if I fight, somebody will listen to me because, I'm tired of trying to, you know,
Attention,
yes,
attention,
so
attention.
I know that, yes, this and it's really kind of like, what it is, because you wanted that somebody who would recognize you and just pat you on the back and just be like, what, that kind of thing. And how
Yeah.
depressing would that be? Just kind of walk us through like that place, the depressing aspect where you're not being heard.
It hit me when you said how a person just want to be pat on their back, and how much a pat on the back or I'm proud of you, how much that can just change the whole game. I didn't give my last time, the only time I can really remember my mother telling me she was proud of me is when I was like 26. I had got my GED in prison. I never heard that. And I understand that you got to give a person a reason to be proud of you. Just as you got to give a person a reason not to be proud of you because of the things we do. So I didn't give her, and I realized I didn't give her reasons to be proud of me. Just I did, now that I think about it, but at that time, just to make it make sense, like why she never said she was proud of me? Well, you never gave her no real reason. But once I heard that, it sparked something in me, like wow. And seeing her cry, and after knowing what we've been through from the time I was born to this moment, and she see her with boy, because she was like, she told me, you're gonna either die or you're gonna end up going to prison. So yeah, I was on that type. She witnessed herself. For her to say, man, I'm like, man, I want that. I want to give her more reasons to be proud of me, and therefore I got to change my ways. So that
Yeah.
stuck with me, and I build off of that. That's why I always tell my kids, when they do something, I'm proud of them. Even when they didn't do nothing special, still you taking care of your kids, I'm proud of you. You're trying to be a man, I'm proud of you. Tell my daughter, I'm proud of you. I tell people that I don't even know or I just met, like, man, I'm proud of you because I know that you out here doing it. And if anybody, yeah, I just give that out because that'll change the games. But first of all, they have to respect the person who's saying that and know that he really means what he's saying. And I respect him, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And that's the power of, positive words, when we kind of like use those words. And I wanted to stop you at some point because you said you didn't give your mom a reason to be proud of you. And we shouldn't give them that reason. It should just be something that should be part of their vocabulary, part of whatever it is.
Exactly. Even the little things.
Yes, the little tiniest thing that you're able to tie up your shoelace, your mom should be like, come on, that is incredible. I am so proud of you. That's my son. You're able to maybe you're well dressed, you're going somewhere, we're like, listen, son, I just want you to know that you're a great son. I love you. I'm proud of you. Those
I'm
words.
going to work at 16, first job at 16, or I bought my first set of clothes when I was in the ninth grade, and once I hit high school, I was on my own, financially tight. And, that's something to be proud of.
Absolutely. We don't have to wait until like it's like that, those very huge, big, humongous accomplishments, right? We
Right.
should just really be like, come on, I am so proud of you. I see what you're doing,
Someone's
just
trying. You see
right.
somebody trying. You got to be proud of them and let them know I'm proud of you. Why? Because I see you trying. You trying. You got to be proud.
Absolutely. And honestly, that was just it. So if your parents listening, like don't wait till the big things. Like don't wait till those very huge accomplishments and stuff like that. Just keep throwing in those positive words. Even if it feels like what
Deposits.
you're just saying is just it's like pouring water on a stone. Just keep saying it. They're taking it in. You don't know. You might not know they're taking it in. Just keep saying it. You're seeing that you're saying those positive things, and your child is maybe joined a gang, or just kind of like having all of those bad vibes, or negative friends around him, or bad influence and all of those things. Just keep saying those positive things, and you just have to say it even more, like I am
More and more.
fun,
Hmm.
and those kind of things. And that's just a way that that will make them, even though they might end up making their own mistakes, they will always remember and say, oh my god, my mom really poured into me, my mom said this and this, and all of those kind of things. So that's basically like what I picked from the story you shared. And as we begin to wrap up, okay, we want to really talk about the impact of peer pressure. So, the peer pressure is really huge, especially when a child doesn't have guidance, a father in their life, and you said something about the society would actually give them that guidance, the street will actually influence them. And again, not just when a dad is not physically present, a dad could just be there as a dad, but not really involved, or just really being there like a ceremonial dad, and not really doing anything, or
Hmm.
putting in anything. And then let's talk about peer pressure. How do you think were you impacted by peer pressure, and tell us about it.
Yeah. When I moved in with my dad, my father, he had a stepson my age, and I'm at like 14 years old, somewhere around there, 14, 15. So, being with him, he had a little crew. So, I'm hanging with, I'm getting to know my stepbrother and, and his people and whatnot. And they used to do a lot of things. Like I didn't drink, I got peer pressured into drinking and got in trouble and got blamed for that. Smoking weed, I didn't do that. So, being around that, not having that structure to where I am now, which I have now, and I can be like, yeah, I'm cool. You can't peer pressure me. And even if you try, I'm taking it as disrespect because I'm not him. You can't. But anyway, but being young, not having that structure, having no structure as far as being like standing structure, being standing on what you believe in. Like, no, you don't drink. Alcohol does something to my body. I don't like it too much of it will affect me in a negative way, make me sick, basically. So with that being said, yeah, when you don't have that structure and you end up, that's what we have to have some type of structure. We have to. We have to have something that we're our comfort zone. That's gonna put it like when we are home. When you're at home, that's your comfort zone. When some
Absolutely.
people are at the streets, that's their comfort zone because their home ain't their comfort zone. It's just too much stuff. So they go out to the streets and
Mhm.
they have the fun that they have, and then but that's how it starts with me. If you don't have no structure, then peer pressure is going to get to you.
Wow. And there's something you just said that really kind of struck me. So the home is not conducive. They're always trying to leave the house because it's possible that mom and dad lives in the same house, but mom and dad is always fighting, getting a loggerhead. There's no peace in the house. It's always chaotic. So now this is really not conducive. The home that is meant to be a peaceful home, a loving home isn't conducive anymore. And then they are always, always finding that peace out there on the street, and all of the negative things that comes from it. And what you just said just really struck me. I was like, oh wow,
Yeah.
that's really a good way to look at it. Wow, incredible. And as we begin to wrap up, this is basically a rhetorical question. I want you to really hold the hand of a young man listening to you right now. I just want you to picture him, like he's in front of you now, or he's listening to this right now, and he can be between the ages of 15 to 21, and he's listening right now, and he's already on the streets. He feels like, I know I'm going to get in trouble. I might get caught one day. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to go to prison, but I think that's where I might be heading to if I continue this way. Well, it's not my fault. I don't have a father figure in my life. There's no structure in my home. Please, what would be your best counsel to this particular child?
Wow. Again, I gotta put myself in that shoes because what would I want to be told? Mm, I don't, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? So my job would be, our job is to lead that horse and hope that they, explain why they should drink from why they should drink from that. Why is it good for you? Why you should, that's what I would feel I need. Because had I known and had somebody in my ear, because I had no idea where I was going, except that, I'm going to either be in jail or I'm going to end up dying, as my mom told me. And that's all that stuck with me as far as an adult telling me things. I would tell them, if you have to, you have to find an outlet. You have to find, you have to first of all, you have to love you. You got to be real with yourself before you're real with anybody else. Because if you ain't real with yourself, you ain't going to be able to accept no real, period. You have to be real with yourself, and you have to deal with your issues that you have at hand. You have to acknowledge them. You have to soul search. You have to find quiet time alone, away from everybody, and kind of ask yourself questions. Why you feel this way? What can you do different? Think about your situation with your parents. If you're having problems, which your dad's not there, you have to make it make sense for you to move on, because that's the only thing. You have to move on. What happened in the past, only thing you can do from it is learn from it. And in the present, you have to want better. So the future, you won't go through all that. So if you don't do it right now, this is what I'm gonna tell them. If you don't take time and try to understand and trust the process that you'll get there because you want to get there, then you're going to go in a direction where your life is just going to be going downhill, and it's not going to be able to stop. You're looking at prison time, you're looking at death, you're looking at, being overall being taken out of the game. And not only you being affected, but your loved ones, your mother, your siblings, your kids, your cousins, your whole family, those that love you are going to do time with you. So you got a moment right now to sit back and think about what you really want, and that you have the power to change. Because if you go that direction, that's the direction that you want to go, because you have a choice. We all have a choice. So at the end of the day, it's up to you. You can take that way, which is the path that you can keep going where you're going. And that's why we're sitting here talking. Everything happens for a reason. And me being in front of you is the reason that you need to understand and listen to what I'm saying. Because otherwise, you're going to keep going the wrong way, and it's not going to take you nowhere outside of somewhere negative and anything. That's what I would say to
Absolutely. Oh my God. I hope this speaks to
them.
somebody who is listening. I hope this speaks to you because, you can just sit down within yourself and have that conversation within yourself. Tell yourself that honest truth within yourself, because listen, guys, you are just hearing this from the horse's mouth. He has gone through that route. So it's not like he read it in the book. He had really kind of like had some turbulence and all of those things. And sometimes I'm wondering, like, how are you still alive? Like, despite all of the things you're going through, and look at you being a community activist, you're just there, being a mentor, helping, young boys, just really kind of like giving back to the community. And I just really want anybody listening to please, if you're almost getting to that point where you feel like, man, maybe I might get caught, and then I'll go to prison, or I could just die in the process, or I just have that fear, but I know that something is coming. Please think about this again, like have a rethink, and don't go that route, because you can still make a U-turn. You can still change something. Something can change. I don't waste your destiny, and don't waste your life. Okay, it's not too late at this point. It might seem very scary, but if you really need someone to talk to, if you need some personal one-on-one conversation, because you want to just have a one-on-one conversation with, you know I'm trying to pronounce your name the right way. um
Sure.
yes, if you want to have that.
Call me. You can call me.
Absolutely. I'm going to be putting his contact on the show notes. You can chat him up on, Facebook. You can really kind of like reach out to him, rub minds with him. We don't want you to go that route. You're very important to us. He came out of it. You might not come out of it. So I just really want you to please, he survived it. So many people would not. Many people, people's destiny are different. So I really want you to have a rethink. Okay. I want you to have a rethink. I want you to tell yourself that, hey, I am not going to go that route. I am going to I'm going to change my life around, and all of those very beautiful things will come your way. I want to really thank you so much for coming on, and please, for these people listening, where do you think they can find you so easily? Because I know that, some black boys, young boys, people, millennials, people who are really kind of like already on the streets, they're going to be watching this on the replay, and they're definitely going to be reaching out to you. So tell us where you want us to find you.
Find me on social media, Facebook, Jor-El, Jor-El, Lamar, Lamar, or you can find me on Facebook, Jor-El, same spelling, Jor-El's World, WORLD. My number is in my information, contact information, email is all in the proper spots. So, you can inbox me. I'm just here for you. I understand where people been through, and I understand and have tools that I've used to get me up out of those same situations that people are in, whether it's suicidal thoughts or depression, or just, loneliness and father issues or single dad issues, or, things of that nature. I can relate on so many different things. So reach out. There are people like me who've been through things and are willing to share them with you. Me personally, you can call me. We can talk.
Absolutely. And I just really want to thank you so much for really putting yourself out there. Thank you so much for being that mentor. Thank you so much for not keeping your story to yourself. Thank you for really being vulnerable, and for sharing, the way you've just shared. And I know that some people will definitely reach out to you, ask you questions and just connect with you, so that they can really rub minds, because these people might come to me and I may not have the exact resources to give them. But for you, who had really gone there, gone there, done that, gone there, all of those things, you've had that experience, you'll be in a more better position to really give them the best counsel. Jor-El, I just really want to thank you. Like, thank you so much for coming on. This was an incredibly amazing conversation, and I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Whoa, it was an amazing conversation. And if you're just joining us right now, you need to go catch up on the replay. So I'm going to be saving this for you, okay? And I want to thank you so much for staying to the end. Again, it's your girl, Nobo IJ. I'll see you in the next episode. Hugs, kisses. Bye.